No more number this time, cause my number man is live. I ain't buy no more number this time, cause my number man is live.
Hey, put this 6 down for me, boy. I got a 10 cent put on there. Yeah, boy. I tell you now. Now we going down the road. Check this.
I ain't buy no more number this time, cause my number man is live. I ain't buy no more number this time, cause my number man is live.
Hey, put the 6 down, boy. Go my bed, go my bed. Number come to me while in my bed. I went to the bucket, I blessed my bed. I even spent my whole week to check. I tell them call me them number 4. Me and my boys, we the all. I put you little girls in my number, come and I spot number, and break and run.
I ain't buy no more number this time, cause my number man is live.
I tell you so. I ain't dealing with that number man no more.
I ain't buy no more number this time, cause my number man is live.
Hey, put the 6 down. I went by house and I went down low to watch and see if it really so. I say sneak in the back and run to the front, lock up the gate and give a grunt and back inside and bend over, pick up a bundle of money off the sofa. He looked to the east and looked to the west. All my money in one eye in chance. Oh Lord, this number man gets so much good. What the my money? Hey, alright, do your form. 4 best on number 751. But that's the sin. 3, 7, 1 for them before. 5, no man, no. Hey, number man. Take this number down, man. 714-312-891 and box them. I want you box them. I run that 6 straight down the line. Turn the big down, tell you boss that's a 9. Number man, up the think I wouldn't stop. But they got this new talk about the red shop. My friends say try out the internet. 2 weeks gone, man, and get me yet. It's a crying shame, it's a blast of disgrace. All my money lost in cyberspace. That's what number man right over there. Hey, come in now. Say it right over there. I'm buying from him no more, you know. He just lied. He just lied. Hey, I'm buying from him, man. No, man. I tell you so. You see that number man over there? I might as well use the data. Moses, you're my money, man. Get up from behind that. Get up from under that truck. Get up. Come. Hey, boys. I paid 741 yesterday, you know. I paid 741. You tell me you come about around here. Turn the paper around, tell the boss that's a 9. And I write the 6 on the line, you know. Boy, that number man can lie, boy. But guess what? I ain't gonna deal with him no more. I ain't dealing with him no more. But I got a new number. I played 341. 341, and I ain't boxing it this time. I ain't going straight. And I put 10 cents on it this time. I put 10 cents on it. I put $50 this time. I tell you so. Number man! Check it out inside. Hey! I tell you, I ain't gonna buy no more number this time, boy. This number people didn't like. I just, at the internet out now, too. Hey, I check my voice on the internet. I check my account. Not a dime. Not a dime. And I buy cyberspace. Man, I go buy number. Hey, what they got all this gambling now on the internet. I go on there, I check this thing. This ain't really. I still got to, my number, I gotta change my number, man. I got to change. Hey, hold on, man. Bring your boy back here. Hey, to the police. I just emailed him a friend. What number? I emailing my friend. The police, I see that's hard to say if I don't talk to them kind of people like that all the time.
I answer for much. I just want in now. Oh, darling, keep looking, peeping until I see stop. I answer for too much. Oh, girl, I just want in now. Oh, darling, keep looking, peeping, looking until I see stop. Girl, I was so thankful when you let me in. Oh, girl, I was hungry, starving, my stomach had pain. You gave me some food, Lord, from the sweet pot. And girl, it did taste so good, I just could not stop. I answer for much, oh, I just want it now. Oh, darling, keep looking, peeping until I see stop. I answer for too much, oh, girl, I just want it now. Oh, darling, keep looking. was you I saw at the Reagan scrape. You was looking sweet, the gal, and the food I ate. We started to dance, Lord, put on a show.
Tonight, the FTX founder denied bail and heads to the Bahamas Department of Corrections. We've got that story coming up. This as that hearing on the FTX collapse gets underway in the United States. And later, an oil spill causes a multiple car smash up. We've got the details on this. Eyewitness News starts now.
Eyewitness News is linked up by BTC. Whether it's chatting, gaming, content creating, or working smart to get things done, link up to stay connected with BTC.
Sam Bankman-Fried arrested, charged, and taken to the Bahamas Department of Corrections. Good evening, everyone. I'm Janae Noel. Thanks so much for joining us. The Eyewitness News team camped out for most of the day from 7 this morning at the Nassau Street Magistrates Court when the accused appeared before Chief Magistrate Joyanne Ferguson Pratt. Our Theo Seeley joining me live tonight at the Bahamas Department of Corrections, where we are told that Bankman-Fried would have arrived moments ago. Theo, certainly an eventful day for you, dealing with police at the courts today. But if you can tell us what is happening now at this hour and recap the turn of events, Theo?
Janae, we are coming to you live from the front entrance of the Bahamas Department of Corrections, and Sam Bankman-Fried, the founder of the collapse FTX, which was once a crypto giant headquartered here in the Bahamas, he will be spending the holidays behind bars here at BDOCS as he fights his extradition to the United States. Now, citing his access to substantial finances, the Chief Magistrate Joyanne Ferguson Pratt told the court today that she was unable to grant him access to bail because he is currently considered a flight risk. Now, Bankman-Fried has been remanded here to BDOCS, as I would have mentioned. He will stay here until his trial commences on February 8th, 2023. Now, I'm just going to rewind to this morning. Eyewitness News has been covering the entire proceedings of today's court case in court number 9 at the Magistrates Court complex off of Nassau Street. We know that Bankman-Fried would have been arrested at 6 p.m. yesterday, and he was taken into police custody. He was brought before the court and appeared before Chief Magistrate Joyanne Ferguson Pratt as criminal charges would have been filed against him in the United States yesterday. Now, a press statement issued by the Office of the Attorney General just hours after Bankman-Fried would have been taken into police custody last evening, indicating that the Bahamas government is willing to cooperate with the American government with any requests that they might have as it would relate to the extradition of Sam Bankman-Fried. Now, these extradition proceedings usually are guided by a treaty that was signed between the Bahamas and the United States, which dates back to March of 1990. It was enforced as of September 1994. As outlined in that extradition treaty, individual can be arrested and held in police custody for up to 60 days. As we see in the case of Sam Bankman-Fried, he will remain on remand here at the Bahamas Department of Corrections until February 8th. Now, according to the treaty, he can be held up to 60 days but must be released thereafter if he has not yet been extradited to the United States. But that treaty also states that if officials from the United States wish to have him rearrested, the Bahamian authorities have the right within this jurisdiction to do so until he is extradited to the United States. Now, it was a grueling 6 to 8 hours that we spent in front of the courthouse this afternoon waiting for information to come out as to whether or not Sam will be extradited today or whether or not the court would grant him bail. Now, we know that there was at least a 1 to 2 hour back and forth between the prosecution and the defense as to whether or not the court had the jurisdiction to grant him bail. And so what the Chief Magistrate decided to do today, Joyanne Ferguson Pratt, she wanted to ensure that justice would be served rightly and correctly, but not too swiftly, to ensure that his rights were not trampled upon. So she took a 1 hour recess, and when court reconvened, after she would have reviewed the Bahamian laws as it relates to whether or not the court has jurisdiction to grant him bail, she indicated to the court this afternoon that the court did have that jurisdiction. But after taking another 1 hour break, the Chief Magistrate returned to her court chambers in court number 9 this afternoon, handing down the decision that because SBF has access to great financial wealth, and because he also has ties with other countries around the globe, he is currently considered a flight risk. And just about an hour and a half ago to 2 hours ago, the decision was handed down by the chief magistrate that Sam Bankman-Fried, a once multi-billionaire who had his home in the Albany estate in southwestern New Providence, he spent the last 4 weeks there declaring his innocence to media houses around the world. Tonight and for the next 2 months, he will spend behind bars here at the Bahamas Department of Corrections until he returns to court on February 8th, at which time he will commence fighting his extradition to the United States. Now, we know while he was in his arraignment here in court this afternoon, we know that the United States, there was also a proceeding that was happening over on that front as it relates to certain charges being brought against him. Now, Eyewitness News has been able to get our hands on a hold of the indictment document. There were some 8 counts that SBF was indicted for in the U.S. court today. Going to go over those very quickly for you, Janea, so our viewing audience can understand at home exactly what law officials in the United States want SBF to be tried for in a U.S. court. Count number 1, conspiracy to commit wire fraud on customers. Count number 2, wire fraud on customers. Count number 3, conspiracy to commit wire fraud and launder. Count number 4, wire fraud on lenders. Count number 5, conspiracy to commit commodities fraud. Count number 6, conspiracy to commit securities fraud. Count number 7, conspiracy to commit money laundering. And the final count, count number 8, conspiracy to defraud the United States and violate the campaign finance laws. Janea, 8 hefty counts outlined in that indictment for Sam Bankman-Fried. The U.S. is hoping to be able to have him extradited from the shores of the Bahamas sometime after February 8th. Now, it is important to note that the legal counsel for Sam Bankman-Fried did not apply for that decision for his bail that was not granted to be overturned today. There's no telling as to whether or not his legal team could possibly put an application before the court for that decision that was handed down by the chief magistrate to be possibly overturned. But as it stands right now at this hour, Sam Bankman-Fried, the once crypto billionaire, is behind bars here with every other individual who has been accused of alleged crimes, and he will spend the next 2 months here, Janea. This has been a story that we have been following since day one when this debacle began unfolding at the early part of November, and this is a major story that we will continue to follow as all of these details continue to come together and as court proceedings continue over in the United States. Reporting live from the Bahamas Department of Corrections, I'm Theo Seeley, sending it back to you live on the desk, Janea.
Thanks so much, Theo. Certainly an incredible job by our Theo Seeley and the entire Eyewitness News team today. Meantime, the Securities Commission of the Bahamas correcting what they're calling misstatements made by John J. Ray III. He's the representative of the U.S. FTX debtors, which appears to be false. The commission asserts that Ray's statements were, quote, intended only to make headlines and advance questionable agendas. In a statement released this morning, the commission says Ray has referred to redacted email correspondence between FTX former CEO Sam Bankman-Fried and Bahamian officials. Those redactions, it says, were designed to create a false impression of communications between Fried and the commission. Now, the commission labels this as disturbing, as it says Ray is aware that the full emails reveal that he acknowledged that he had not briefed the Securities Commission. The commission further insists that every action taken was in strict accordance with the country's legislation and with orders made by the Supreme Court of the Bahamas. Now, the commission says it will make all appropriate findings and recommendations to the appropriate forum. At the conclusion of its investigation, and persons who are found to have been engaged in misconduct will be held accountable in accordance with Bahamian law. Well, in the eyes of the world on the Bahamas, former FTX CEO Sam Bankman-Fried was charged, as we said, in the magistrate's court today in what has been a day-long process. Joining me live in studio is our head of digital, Ava Turnquest. And Ava, you spent the day in court. Tell us about why things took so long today and about the range of charges and whether or not Sam was made to answer to those charges. Ava?
Hi, Janea. So today, a large part of the morning was spent with counsel opposing counsel debating back and forth whether or not the court had jurisdiction, as Thea would have mentioned earlier. Now, early on, Chief Magistrate Joanne Ferguson Pratt let the court know that she intended to be very thorough in her in the proceedings today, and she remarking to the court that rush justice was no justice. So she was very much keen on ensuring that both sides were heard and that every opportunity was given to ensure that justice would be delivered today. And so
this was jurisdiction for bail, just so we're clear, right?
Yes, jurisdiction to grant bail. So the extradition proceedings have begun. It started with Sam Bankman-Fried advising the court that he would not be waiving his right to an extradition hearing. And so from there, it led to an application for bail on behalf by his lawyers. And most of the discussion today surrounded whether or not he was a flight risk, whether or not he still had access, whether or not his access or alleged access to large financial resources made him a flight risk and posed a threat to whether or not he could be counted upon to stay and not abscond from the rest of the proceedings. Now, the lead prosecution made several key points. They pointed out that his actions up until this point seemed to suggest that he has no intention of ever facing charges in the U.S., as he initially made a commitment to appearing in person before the U.S. congressional hearing that got started today. However, he later told them that he would be attending it virtually. Now, given that he was later arrested, he was no longer able to attend in any event. However, the lead prosecutor pointed to these actions as an indication of his resistance to even face these charges at all. Now, his lawyers are saying that he's prepared to fight extradition, and he's prepared to fight it in the Bahamas. They made a big play for his, he invested widely in real property here, and so they pointed out that he has ties to the Bahamas, that he is interested, and that an interesting note, his lawyer said that he's been working with the Securities Commission on a daily basis, assisting them with their work and also fundraising in an attempt to recoup losses for those customers. He, in his media tour in the last 2 to 3 weeks, he's made a big representation that he feels as though he still has some influence to be able to right-size or right this ship for FTX customers with losses in the billions. However, that was shot down by Chief Magistrate Joanne Ferguson Pratt, who said really she didn't feel that there was any bail condition she could impose that he could not get around, or that he would not still have this incredible risk of him fleeing the country simply because of his access to this wealth.
Now, Ava, tell us a little bit about the concessions that were provided for Sam today. We understand that he suffered from a number of ailments in court, and the magistrate seemingly made some special considerations in what many might say might be considered as special treatment.
Well, as part of his bail application, his lawyer outlined several medical conditions. But before that, when he got into the court today, the chief magistrate made a point of asking him whether or not he was okay, whether or not he had eaten, and he indicated that he was not able to take one prescribed medication that he needs to take daily, which was for his depression, and it was a patch that he would need to take off his shirt to do. So she allowed him to leave the court for several minutes to go and administer that patch, and he was then brought back into the court. And as part of his bail application, his lawyer made representation that he suffers from depression, insomnia, and ADD. And these are things that he's been suffering or dealing with for about a decade. And so they're not new occurrences. And he has prescription to take medication for the depression and also for the ADD. He also listed an allergy medication that was over the counter, so he will not be able to get that. Based on the policy, he would need to be prescribed medication in order to be allowed to have it while in custody. And so that special consideration was really the chief magistrate ensuring that he would be allowed to take his prescribed medication regularly and routinely, because that was a factor in the bail application where his lawyers made a representation that they didn't feel as though, or that history has shown that police are, that persons who are held in custody are not able to have routine medication or not being able to be consistently receiving their medication, which the chief magistrate said she felt was an unfair generalization. And so she took the extra step to write to the prison to say, to the Bahamas Department of Corrections, to say that to advise them that he needed to take this medication, and to also, once he was remanded, that he would be reviewed by a medical officer.
All right, thank you so much, Ava Turnquest. She's the head of digital here at Eyewitness News, providing us with some very comprehensive information on today's proceedings. And finally, Ava, just want to ask you, what happens next?
Well, there are some pretty high-pressured charges leveled against Sam Bankman-Fried in the U.S. courts. However, right now, it's just a waiting game. He has until February 8th when those extradition proceedings will start again, this time under a new judge. As Chief Magistrate indicated, she'll be transferring it to Magistrate Shaka Seville. And so he has the next 2 months, really. I mean, he can apply for bail. It's remains to be seen whether or not he will do so. But for now, it seems as though he will remain in the Bahamas, and the fight continues next year.
Thanks so much, Ava Turnquest, joining us live in studio for those details from today's court proceedings. Well, alleged victims of the FTX collapse who claims that they lost everything after investing in the once crypto giant company present at court today to witness for themselves Sam Bankman-Fried's arraignment. Now, we caught up with an Ashley Britton who says immediately after hearing that he was arrested, she made it her mission to get to the Bahamas.
As soon as the news broke, I took a flight out from Miami. One of my close friends and family members had a lot of money in FTX and now don't have their houses, don't have a home, can't feed their families. It's terrible. I just don't know how somebody could do that. I don't know how you could live with yourself knowing that you literally scammed multiple people and devastated their lives. And meanwhile, you're living in a penthouse in Albany.
Well, the U.S. Financial Services Commission hearing on the collapse of the crypto exchange FTX, it did go on as planned today, even without the presence of Sam Bankman-Fried, who was remanded, as you heard, to Her Majesty's prison. Well, the House Representative Maxine Waters, chair of the U.S. committee holding the hearing, said she was, quote, surprised to hear of his arrest and said that she was disappointed that he would not testify before the committee. Here's what she had to say.
This committee today. Unfortunately, the timing of his arrest denies the public the opportunity to get the answers they deserve. Rest assured that this committee will not stop until we uncover the full truth behind the collapse of FTX. Just a few months ago, FTX was one of the largest cryptocurrency exchanges in the world, with a valuation of $32 billion in just 3 years since its founding. Today, FTX is bankrupt and possibly looted. FTX misused an approximately $10 billion in customer funds and owes creditors at least $3 billion. Today, as many as 1 million people, many of whom are here in the United States, are locked out of their FTX accounts and may recover only a fraction of their hard-earned investments, if any at all. But this failure is not just noteworthy for its size, but for the company's total disregard for standard business practices, governance, risk management, and criminal conduct.
Waters added that what Bankman-Fried allegedly did was wrong and said that he must be held accountable.
Mr. Ray, who also oversaw one of the largest corporate bankruptcies in United States history, Enron, declared that he had never in his career seen such, and I quote, complete failure of corporate controls and such a complete absence of trustworthy financial information as occurred here, end of quote. I'm so deeply troubled to learn how common it was for Bankman-Fried and FTX employees to steal from the cookie jar of customer funds to finance their lavish lifestyles. Today, this committee will dig deeper into Mr. Ray's findings with the hopes of piecing together the events that led to the collapse of FTX and the subsequent harm to millions of customers who put their trust in the platform. We will also look at FTX's deep ties with Alameda, a crypto hedge fund predominantly owned by Bankman-Fried that gambled away billions of dollars in customer assets that were inappropriately transferred from FTX. And importantly, we will hear how Mr. Ray and his team are trying to recover funds for customers by piecing together Bankman-Fried's broken record keeping and by identifying potentially unlawful transfers to himself as well as his friends and family.
Well, Ray, responding to those claims, he pointed out that their investigations will continue, but he also pointed to the poor record keeping of FTX.
Most failed companies, you have a fair roadmap of what happened. We're dealing with literally a sort of a paperless bankruptcy in terms of how they created this company. It makes it very difficult to trace and track assets. Particularly, as I said, in the crypto world, it's really unprecedented in terms of the lack of documentation. At this stage, we're trying not to, lay judgment or put labels on actions. We're focused on, accumulating and maximizing the assets for the victims. That's our number one priority. In doing so, we will also investigate potential causes of actions to maximize value. And that does require us to get into the underlying facts and motivations and what happened. So we fully expect to explore that.
Thank you. Would you consider this to be sincere ignorance?
Again, I don't want to put labels on it. Obviously, there's been failure here of a massive proportion. Ultimately, like others will judge him by his actions.
Mm-hmm. I am.
Well, as the FTX debacle continues, there are some concerns that confidence in the cryptocurrency is waning. Our Tyler Simonet took to the streets of downtown Nassau to hear the views of some visitors, many of whom are also heavily invested in the crypto industry. Here's that report.
Over the past 10 years, cryptocurrency has gone from an overlooked asset to a popular investment. According to studies, it's estimated that some 1 billion people worldwide have used crypto exchanges. Despite this figure, many have expressed that they feel as if the crypto industry is too risky to invest in.
I think it's something new, fairly new, and I probably know it's been out for a while. But for my personal use, I wouldn't use it. It's because of my age, trying to get used to something a little bit different. My daughter is highly into it, and she has done some investing in it. So I think it's going to be the new thing. It's just like everything else. It's going to get better as it goes along.
Cryptocurrency is it's a kind of thing where I'm not sure about, because the market it fluctuates so much, and being that it's up 1 minute, down 1 minute, and then they make so many different variations. You don't know what's the safety net, which one to go into.
It takes hold as people get more and more used to it. But for me, at my age, I'm not interested in those types of investments. I'm looking for something I know that's solid, that I can invest in.
The recent fallout of crypto giant FTX has also shaken the confidence of some who were considering investing, as many questions still remain surrounding the company's disgraced former CEO, Sam Bankman-Fried.
I was not a big believer to begin with, and now I have absolutely zero belief in it as an investment opportunity. I don't feel it's a trustworthy investment. I don't feel that there's enough oversight. I don't feel that there's anybody actually watching what's going on. I understand that it's exciting for a new generation of investors, but I think that as we're seeing play out, that there's a lot of people who are going to take advantage of that unregulated environment.
It affects my opinion because it's uncertain. So when I hear more uncertainty, when I hear how people are using it, it affects my opinion.
Joseph Madison has been heavily involved in this industry for a number of years, and through his Facebook page, Black Cryptocurrency, he aims to provide a platform for minorities in the United States to have equal access to these opportunities.
In all things across the diaspora, minorities have been wholly excluded. I wanted to make sure that there was a space where minorities across the globe could have access to information that's relevant, that's timely, and that's important, with them being able to learn about cryptocurrency, how to buy, sell, hold, and trade items in cryptocurrency.
Now, while many of the American tourists that we spoke to seemed on the fence about cryptocurrency, some of them expressed that despite the fallout of FTX, cryptocurrency is still a lucrative business.
Honestly, I think it's a one-off. If you're going to be a big trading company like that, you need to have better security than what they had, which is the biggest problem. I mean, security in the long run is the main part of cryptocurrency, and if you can't maintain the security, then you've got a problem in yourself. Absolutely a lucrative investment.
Those who aren't as versed or haven't done the research or haven't read, they think that the bottom's falling out, but in reality, it's just getting started, right? I would say do your research, never invest more than you can lose, and always plug into those things that you can relate to. If it's something that's relatable to you and I, it's different versus something that we expect the masses to adopt, right? We can't just adopt everything. We just have to do our research and do our due diligence.
Tyler Simonet, Eyewitness News.
Great story, Tyler. Well, if you've got a news tip or if you've seen news in the making, call the Eye on News hotline at 397-6397. We also invite you to send your letters to the editor for publication on all of our social media platforms at eyewitnessnewsbahamas@gmail.com. And if you're watching on our Facebook or YouTube page, share your thoughts about today's stories in the comments section. We want to hear from you. We're just getting started in Eyewitness News tonight, but when we come back, the Public Service State Minister weighing in on a recent public servant protest. We've got that story coming up. And later, the Minister of Tourism positive about next year's numbers. More on that right after this break.
This segment of the news is sponsored by Corona, distributed in the Bahamas by Jimmy's Wines and Spirits.
Welcome back. Here's a look at your Eyewitness News gas tracker. SO $5.97. The same with Shell, $5.97, and Rubis 10 cents cheaper at $5.87. Be sure to pick up at the pump. Well, last night the streets of downtown Nassau slick after a reported oil spill, mainly on Cumberland and Duke Streets, along with portions of Shirley and Mackey Streets. As you can see here from this video that circulated online today, a number of cars collided into one another. That's a multiple car smash up. The Ministry of Works and Utilities dispatched an emergency team to apply sand to the affected area in an effort to absorb the oil. No telling yet where that oil came from. The ministry also cautioning motorists traveling in that area to proceed and drive with caution as they continue to monitor the situation. Well, in other news tonight, government officials weighing in on that protest last week that saw a number of public servants out at Parliament as they sought to get government's attention over a number of issues that they say they feel have been kicked down the road. Jose Etienne has more on this.
State Minister for the Public Service Pia Glover telling reporters today that she was taken aback by last week's protest with public servants. And this comes on the heels of the substantive minister, Fred Mitchell, arguing that the union was disrespectful by airing out the situation.
The union gave us a missive that stated that by December 9th, they would have liked to come to the table and sign the agreement. However, this protest happened prior to the expiration of the date that they would have given in their letter.
Scores of public servants gathered at Parliament last week to voice their grievances about long-standing payments that they say are owed to them, while union leaders called on government to speed up the process with finalizing the proposed industrial agreement. But Glover Roll is refuting claims made by Ferguson that government did not consult with the union as it relates to the agreement that they're waiting to be signed.
Minister Mitchell would have received a missive last week, I think, that spoke to the Public Service Union being ready to sign between the 7th and the 9th, or some dates that were quoted. So I don't understand how we would be ready to sign if he was in a position to have a document or understand what it is that would be being signed. To my recollection, to my understanding from our chief negotiator, Mr. Bernard Evans, meetings have been held, conversations have been held. I have seen Mr. Ferguson here in meetings with the Prime Minister.
Tensions between government and the Public Service Union has been brewing for quite some time as both sides have struggled to get on the same page. But who's to blame? Could it be that the union is being unreasonable with what they're demanding, or is government not playing fair? Glover Roll responds.
Every union, rightfully so, wants more money, more benefits for their employees or their members. That's the way you negotiate. Based on the fiscal state of our country, we're comfortable that we've offered the best possible package to our workers at this time. It's our goal that we get this package to them before the holidays, and in a matter of proactivity.
With BPSU having yet to give the go-ahead on the proposed agreement, the minister says that could also determine whether public servants get their holiday benefits.
We feel that we're on a trajectory with the BPSU to sign, and hopeful that we'll sign before the end of the year. So as a result, we would have engaged the Ministry of Public Service technical team and the Ministry of Finance technical team to begin the process that mirrors the agreement in terms of ensuring that the payroll cycle, if this agreement is signed, is met in time for the holidays so that our workers aren't disenfranchised.
That said, she's hoping that the union will cooperate.
We would like to assign as many agreements as we originally said within this year, and Public Service Union would be the main one that I would like to sign, being the Minister of State for the Public Service. So we remain hopeful that once the Bahamas Public Service Union gets the final agreement, hopefully by tomorrow, that it will be something that they are prepared to accept and that we can sign as soon as possible.
Jose Etienne, Eyewitness News.
Well, the former Prime Minister, Dr. Hubert Minnis, urging the Davis administration to address what he says is an alarming homicide rate. Leah Cooper has the details in this report.
The violence in New Providence is out of control. That's what former Prime Minister Dr. Eyewitness expressed to parliamentarians yesterday in the House of Assembly, adding that in the first full year under the Davis administration, the country is now nearing a national murder record.
Nearly 130 people have been murdered this year thus far. Investors and tourists could be less likely to come here and spend their money if this administration does not get a handle on the situation. On the rare occasion when he's in the Bahamas, Prime Minister hardly talks about crime anymore. His failure to come up with a workable crime plan is disgraceful. The now governing party promised this in the run-up last general election in its blueprint for change.
The murder count now stands at 125, the latest being a double homicide this past Friday, claiming the lives of 2 males off of Papal Tract. To that, Dr. Minnis says Bahamians ultimately want to live in peaceful communities, to raise their families in a place of law and order. But the crime rate is alarming. In fact, it's the highest on record since 2015, which saw 146 murders.
Gunmen do what they want in New Providence. They open fire on their targets with automatic weapons when and where they like. Sadly, innocent bystanders, including children, get caught up in the crossfire, and Bahamians do not want to live like this, Madam Speaker.
And as we creep closer and closer to the highest murder count in Bahamian history, a few members of the public expressed their concerns.
I myself lost 2 kids in 2011 in the space of 1 month and 1 day. So definitely, sometimes it gets me angry to really see how, and the thing about it too is like, the guys who are doing the killing and the guys, who are dying, they're like so young,
We need to find some more ways, creating more jobs and giving people more opportunities. I'm not saying that's an excuse for crime, but then you have idle hands. You have to make more programs to introduce more young people into doing it. And persons who have been evicted with a crime record should give us a second chance.
It's very terrible. Our young men, they don't want to work. They just want to stay around and rob you when you don't make your hard-earned money and kill up one another. So that's why it's very hard for our young men. Yeah, so we got to keep praying for them that God will deliver them from this and be able to get back on track.
Back in October, Prime Minister Philip Davis said he did not think the country's crime rate will negatively impact the tourism industry as it is a, quote, contained issue. That same month, National Security Minister Wayne Munro and Police Commissioner Clayton Fernander were split on whether to label this year's spike in homicides as a crime crisis, with one acknowledging it as a crime crisis and the other begging to differ. Leah Cooper, Eyewitness News.
Meantime, Tourism and Aviation Minister Chester Cooper telling Eyewitness News that government is close to finalizing a deal with a bidder as it relates to the redevelopment of the Grand Bahama Airport. This comes as government has repeatedly committed to the development of a world-class airport on the island of Grand Bahama, while also underscoring its importance to the island's economy. The airport sustained intensive damage during Hurricane Dorian in 2019 and was purchased by the government in 2021 through the Airport Authority. Now, Cooper maintains that officials are working on jump-starting the redevelopment process as soon as possible.
We're very close, but I'm not in a position to make a statement at the moment. We are doing some final housekeeping on the process. It's being finalized. We know who the winning bidder is, but I can't tell you yet. If I had it my way, it would be next week. But like I say, we're waiting for some final responses. It's going to be soon, and you're going to be pleased.
Well, Chester also says that government is expecting this incoming year to be a record one for the country. As far as tourism numbers are concerned, he went on to note that 2023 is set to surpass 2019's numbers, which were record-breaking. This uptick in tourism activity comes as the country is continuing to bounce back from the economic fallout as a result of COVID-19. Now, while the surge in numbers is expected, Cooper says government will ensure that Bahamians in the industry will be able to reap the benefits.
I'm very, very optimistic about the next few months. This optimism comes from what we see from our major stakeholders, the hotels in particular, Bahamas, Atlantis, on all of the properties, even in the Family Islands, are reporting very, very strong bookings over the next 6 months. Our airline partners are very happy, and when we look at forwardkeys.com, who track forward bookings, we anticipate that 2023 is going to be the best year we've ever seen in tourism. This year we're going to meet the 2019 numbers, and 2019 was a record-setting year. So once we beat this year next year, I think we're going to be in a good place.
Well, still to come in Eyewitness News tonight, vandalism of a Christmas scene. We'll tell you all about it right after this break.
Portion of the news is brought to you by J.S. Johnson, insurance agents and brokers, giving you peace of mind.
You're looking at live pictures of JFK Roundabout, where the temperature is right around 73 degrees with an expected dip of 70. This is Eyewitness News. Welcome back. Well, we continue our 12 days of Christmas tonight, but it's nothing to celebrate. Our Laurencia Smith tells us of how the Grinch stole Christmas for one community. Here's that report.
For some, admiring Christmas decorations is one of the many highlights of the holiday season. While for the Stapleton Gardens Neighborhood Watch community, tonight they are outraged as they claim that a Grinch vandalized their community gingerbread house on the main park. Jude Smith, a member of the board, tells us that the damages are in the thousands.
The door was completely open, which is unusual after hours, and went to see if our neighbor, the person who built this structure, was inside. No. Came back to find that everything inside was torn up, the door was off, the Christmas tree down on the ground at 10:30 last night, which is very, very unusual.
Now, what does those damages look like?
We have props of another tree inside, makeshift presents that were open and destroyed. You know, persons looking, I guess, to see if something was inside them. But everything inside is makeshift, okay? This here is no easy thing.
Now, this is the second year that the community had the Christmas attraction. Smith says that the purpose of the gingerbread house is for the little ones to have something to look forward to during the holiday season.
This is here for the kids, and to see that now you have persons coming on in our community and vandalizing something that should be celebrated, okay? Something that our kids can come and enjoy, which they have been doing since the opening of this last week.
The community sends this message to the Grinch or Grinches.
What we are about in Stapleton, meaning we reach out to every and anybody. If you need help, find someone. This is what Stapleton is all about, helping those less fortunate, and that is what the season is, giving. So you don't need to come and try to take, okay? We will give.
Laurencia Smith, Eyewitness News.
Well, let's remember the reason for this season. Stay right with us. Our Randy Smith has the latest from the Sportsplex. Good evening, Randy.
Janaea, the Don't Blink weekend of events kicks off tomorrow. Hear more about it coming up in Eyewitness Sports. This segment of the news is brought to you by Hennessy, the spirit of sports in the Bahamas. Good evening, everyone. I'm Randy Smith, and welcome to Eyewitness Sports. Sitting off tonight, one of the mainstays on the sports tourism calendar, the Don't Blink Home Run Derby in Paradise is set to begin its weekend festivities for its 5th edition tomorrow. Don't Blink Week begins December 14th with the Cancer Treatment Centers of America celebrity softball game at the Atlantis Paradise Harbor. Game time is set for 7 p.m. and will feature event attendees along with Bahamian influencers and local public figures. The harbor will also be the location of the Don't Blink Kids Camp that's scheduled for the following morning. That's December 15th at the Atlantis Paradise Harbor. That camp is free of charge and open to boys and girls ages 7 through 18. The main event that takes place on December 17th at 12 noon with the Home Run Derby's return to the Montague Foreshores.
For us, our baseball dream started at a very young age at Freedom Farm Baseball League under Coach Greg Burrow Sr. His visions, his plans, and what he envisioned for baseball to do for us, it is transpiring to right now today. Through those experiences, we gained exposure of what baseball has to offer around the world, and these experiences led us to the creation of this event 5 years ago. And 5 years of anything in life is a blessing, so for us, we're truly honored, truly humble, and truly blessed that God just gave us this vision, this opportunity to bring this into fruition, for not just for us baseball players, but for the Bahamas in its entirety, to bring these guys down every year, for them to just enjoy the Bahamas for a few days, to see what we have to offer here. I think it's been an experience that most of them will never forget. As you can tell, everyone that's been out to the event from year one, you start to see some of the same guys come over and over and over again. And that's just a testament to, everyone that comes out and supports the event every year. Now the week is growing from 3 days to 5 days, and that's something that we're truly inspired, truly blessed to have. And, for us is how do we continue to create the greatest show on earth?
Locally, the island nation's most decorated tennis player brought the Bahama Cup back to the Bahamas for a third time with a lineup of some of the most accomplished male and female players in the world to the Bahama Tennis Club. Over the weekend, 5-time Olympian Mark Knowles, who was the world's #1 ranked doubles player, along with Canadian Daniel Nestor, he showcased the star-studded lineup that included a pair of former world #1 singles players in Andy Roddick and Australian Luton Hewitt. And in basketball news, Frederick King had the best game of his collegiate career last night for Creighton University in a 73-71 loss to Marquette. King had 16 points and 11 rebounds in 26 minutes of action. He also had a career-high 5 block shots. King and the Blue Jays are 6-5 so far on the season and will be back in action tomorrow against number 14 ranked Arizona. Well, that does it for us in sports, but stay tuned. Eyewitness News continues in a moment. I'm Randy Smith. Have a great evening.
You're watching Eyewitness News.
Link up with BTC and call it one and done. Link up with BTC and call it one and done.
An annual tradition for us here at BTC is joining our parent company, Liberty Latin America, and its subsidiaries in a week-long of exercises we call Mission Week. It's where we step out of the office and our daily routine to spend a week in the community giving back. This year has taken on an educational theme as we've brought 8th grade science students from both the H.O. Nash Junior High School, our adopted school, and the Anatole Rogers High School here to the IMAX Superplex for a day of movie watching.
It's a great week, you know, it's it's BTC's time, and in fact it's not only BTC, it's LLA's time for us to give back to the community. And we believe in the kids, and it's always great to get the kids out for our new partnership, certainly here at Fusion Complex, then to see a good movie as well as a really great documentary that we just finished seeing. But as you can see from all the kids behind me, they're loving it. So we really feel good that we're able to do that. Not only myself, but a lot of the executives and as well as the staff come out to really support this. We all, as a company, feel that we must give back. And look, these kids are our future. So we really feel good about doing this as well.
I want to commend BTC for their Mission Week and for considering H.O. Nash. And also it helps in that some things that we do not get to cover on the curriculum, BTC has sort of helped us so that the students now have a broader understanding of why conservation is so important, whether it's on land and more importantly under the sea.
It was a good experience, and it was also nice to see the different type of species and animals that live in our waters.
Spending time giving back. It's another way that we here at BTC demonstrate that heart is not just something we have, it's something we share. These are still the moments that move us. I'm Corbell Piper. Happy holidays, everyone. Be well, and be back here next, BTC Connection.
Link up with BTC and call it one and done. Link up with BTC and call it one and done.
Well, that wraps up news of a very long day. We thank you so much for joining us with our all-day coverage of today's events. Shanique Miller continues the discussion coming up in Beyond the Headlines. It starts right after this. That does it for us here at Eyewitness News. Once again, I'm Janaea Noel saying have a great evening, everyone.
Desire to live the Bahamian dream? At PDC Corporate Services, we handle all the paperwork so you can run the business you love in paradise. When you form a company, you can protect your personal
views, and comments expressed by the hosts, guests, and callers on Beyond the Headlines are not necessarily those of management, ownership, or production unit of the Verizon Media Group. Beyond the Headlines is a production of ILTV Studios and cannot be reproduced or represented in part or entirety without express written permission of the Verizon Media Group. Beyond the Headlines is the intellectual property of the Verizon Media Group. Copyright 2021.
Alive, still connected, still with you.
Sam Bankman-Fried is the latest resident at the Bahamas Department of Corrections. He arrived there less than 2 hours ago. We take a look tonight. Also, this global fallout of the FTX collapse is wide-sweeping. The Heat organization is forced to return to the drawing board. We're live in Miami as well. And Bahamians paying very close attention to the Sam Bankman-Fried case. Some of your comments and hear from the Hot Topics panel. It's all coming up for you. Good evening. This is Beyond the Headlines, brought to you by Alive. Hello, everyone. I'm Shanique Miller. It's great to have you along this evening. Sam Bankman-Fried spending his first night at the Bahamas Department of Corrections. It will be a reality check for the 30-year-old billionaire. Today, the Associated Press reported that Bankman-Fried could face up to 115 years in prison after congressional hearing and charges by the Security Exchange and Commission, that's the SEC, which include charges of wire fraud, real estate purchases, and big political donations. FTX was one of the world's largest cryptocurrency exchanges before it collapsed last month. Well, we're going to jump in and, of course, talk about it from a local standpoint right now. Joining us this evening is, of course, our online editor and person in charge of our digital news, Ava Turnquest. Ava, good evening to you. Welcome to Beyond the Headlines. You spent a considerable... I'm stumbling over these words like I'm the one who was in court all day, but it was actually you. Good evening to you.
Good evening, Shanique. Good evening, Bahamas. I'm happy to be here.
Yes, absolutely. SBF is entering B-Docs with a number of unique needs, his diet, medication needs, and other considerations. What can you tell us about that?
Okay, so his medication, his diet, all those things formed a part of his legal counsel's argument as to why he should be granted bail. They said that he was completely willing to be subjected to monitoring conditions like daily reporting, ankle bracelet. He even so much as suggested a $250,000 cash bail that he was prepared to pay just so that he can retain his freedom while he fights these extradition charges. Now, speaking to his medical condition, his lawyers advised the court that he suffers from insomnia, depression, and ADD, and he suffers from depression, insomnia, and ADD, and he really needs those medications on a routine schedule. And his lawyers made the case that if he was to be in custody, it's historically known or alleged that prison officials or persons who are, have been remanded, that they're not given their medications in a timely manner. They made that case. Chief Magistrate thought that was a sweeping generalization. She called it unfair in court, and as she delivered her ruling, she made a point to say that she would write a letter to the prison, and she also ordered that upon his intake, he be reviewed by a doctor.
I was about to ask you, that was the next question. Is a doctor going to be made available to him?
Yes, that's the request that she made of the prison. And so basically the court proceedings stretched on today, largely in fact because there was a lot of back and forth over whether or not the chief magistrate had the jurisdiction to grant bail given a provisional warrant had been issued and in these extradition proceedings, meaning that they did not have immediately the authority to proceed beyond bringing him before the court. And so the case that the lead prosecutor was making was that, listen, she didn't really have the jurisdiction to even consider the bail application. However, so she took some time, came back and said, you know what, she referred back to the Bail Act, which says that everyone has an alienable right to bail. And flowing from that, she heard the bail application, Sam Bankman-Fried's lawyers made a lot of representations about his local ties to the...
And investments and all the
his
rest
local
of
ties,
it.
you know, he made a lot of real estate investments. However, the prosecution shot that down because they said a lot of that property here could possibly be subject to those liquidation proceedings and could possibly be seized as the charges against him in the United States come to light. So they really made a point of underscoring that these were, while there were links to the Bahamas, they were diminishing ties. And so at any point, they felt the risk would continue, the risk would be elevated, and he would just abscond, really. And so in her ruling, the chief magistrate decided that ultimately he had so much, you know, she listed his access to financial wealth. She said that she didn't feel there was any bail conditions that she could set that he would not be able to overcome ultimately. So the risk was too great.
Yeah, well, I mean, boy, understandable. Let's look at the charges that he's facing in locally, because the U.S., some of what I read was the U.S. charges that the SEC.
Yes, well, he's not, there hasn't been any charges leveled against him locally. There was an indictment last night leveled in the U.S. courts, and they sent along a diplomatic note advising the Bahamas government that they had indicted him and they would be requesting an extradition. And so a provisional warrant was issued yesterday. He was arrested and brought to the court for the start of those extradition proceedings. And so when bail was denied, he advised the court that he would not be waiving his right to an extradition hearing. And so that hearing will commence on February 8th when he gets back to court next year. So he's spending the holidays.
Isn't that something?
At BDOCS, which arguably people would say that a federal prison in the U.S. may be a better time
Maybe
spent.
a better, yeah.
But I mean,
I wanted to ask you, and I'm going to wait for the Hot Topics panel on this one, but that's okay. I'll sneak it in with you too. Do we know if there's some sort of executive suite?
I think the coverage, particularly in the last month of the prison, there's been a lot of upgrades planned and already underway, but no executive suite, unfortunately.
Hey, with a reality check, right?
Very
My
much
gosh.
so.
So, Ava, when it comes to the extradition, will Bankman-Fried be given, and of course he's been given roughly a 2-month jail term, will he launch a case to fight that, and also will be engaging additional counsel to help strengthen his chances to avoid being extradited, do you know?
Well, his lawyers made it very clear in court today. They plan to fight those extradition charges, and they want to fight it on bail. But at the moment, where they're at presently is that he will be held on remand until those proceedings continue in the new year.
Now, the government, as you know, has already committed to cooperating with U.S. authorities on the extradition request. What is the position of his attorneys in terms of continuing, and also, like I said, the position of his attorneys in terms of what the government has already committed to? I imagine, of course, their job is to continue fighting, but just how does this play out, we think?
Well, a part of the affidavits or the evidence that was leveled in the prosecution's attempt to secure this provisional warrant yesterday was some of the charges that will be leveled against him. He's accused of misappropriating customer funds, money laundering, wire fraud, and so these are the charges that he will be fighting. But he's not this to some extent does not really come before us. We're not going to be adjudicating on whether or not he's innocent or guilty, at least at this stage. We're really just, it's really just a matter of will he be forced to go to the U.S. to face these charges? His lawyers, or the prosecution rather, says that his actions up until this point indicate that he does not intend to face these charges ever or at all in the U.S. They note that he made commitments both to the New York Times and to the U.S. congressional hearing that got started today, but obviously he was arrested and couldn't attend. But he had initially said that he would attend in person, but then later changed to a virtual attendance. And so the prosecution pointed this out and said, look, this is someone that has no intention and is pretty obvious that they do not intend to face those charges in the U.S. This is what they're claiming. However, Sam Bankman-Fried's lawyers are really passionately advocating for him, saying that he is completely invested in the Bahamas, that he plans to stay in the Bahamas, and that, look, he has always had this access to financial wealth, and if he wanted to, he could have left 4 weeks ago when things started turning south, but he didn't. They're trying to say that if he wanted to go, he could have. He hasn't. He's always had this opportunity to flee, but he has chosen to stay, and he wants to fight And he also said that, interestingly enough, that he's been working with the Securities Commission on a daily basis, helping them, giving them information, which is curious because he told the U.S. or in some tweets concerning the congressional hearing, he said that he still didn't have access to his accounts or much details or information, so he didn't have much to provide to the U.S. Congress, but apparently it's based on his lawyers, his work has been instrumental to the Securities Commission. And he's also focused on raising funds. He's
to help.
He said that he's
refund.
committed to help his customers recoup their losses. How successful he can be doing that from behind bars of Fox Hill Prison remains to be seen. But that's where he'll be for the time being.
Quite interesting, right? I mean, Christmas and all the holidays and New Year's, etc. I tell you. Now, what's interesting, I found it interesting, and we reported it all day from court, is that Ferguson Pratt has said when they convene in February, she will hand the case over to another judge. Did she give a reason why?
No, she didn't give a reason why, but I expect that it's just procedural or due to sort of the resource management of the courts. There's a lot of, it may be that her schedule is full, that she won't be able to see it through to the end. So transferring it now is a good time because it will be the start of the extradition. She's gotten it to this point, and she'll be handing it over to Magistrate Shaka Seville. Mm-hmm. And so she didn't really give a reason why, but she just indicated or advised that when Sam returned on February 8th, he'd be before a new judge.
Yeah, absolutely. Ava, of course, I am excited to see the follow-up stories, certainly, of course, of how Sam even fares in Fox Hill Prison. Many are of the opinion that his attorneys will apply for bail and be awarded that bail, and perhaps he'll have some sort of house arrest kind of arrangement. But, of course, we will continue to monitor the story, follow it. You can follow Eyewitness News for the latest on the Sam Bankman-Fried case. Again, Sam Bankman-Fried now getting settled in Fox Hill Prison at this hour, and we obviously have teams all over the story. So continue to follow us online, Eyewitness News, on our on digital platforms, and of course here on the newscast at 7 and on Beyond the Headlines at 8. Ava, thank you very much.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. We're going to take a break and come back with more of Beyond the Headlines after this. Welcome back to Beyond the Headlines. Bankman-Fried was beginning to establish a very impressive relationship with several high-profile teams in the NBA and other major sporting leagues. That relationship was to the tune of millions of dollars. Earlier this year, Sam Bankman-Fried signed deals with the Miami Heat for stadium naming rights. Major League Baseball wanted FTX to be its official crypto exchange. He also signed deals with the Golden State Warriors for international rights, the Washington Wizards and Capitals, again, to be the team's official crypto exchange. Well, the Heat deal in particular has thrown city officials who, like many others, certainly banked on the deal going through. This evening, we are joined by Miami Heat reporter Doug Hanks, who has been reporting on FTX's commitment to the Miami Heat organization and the fallout after the FTX collapse. Good evening to you, Doug. Thank you very much for joining us here on Beyond the Headlines. Good to see you. I imagine that you all have been following very closely today's court proceedings here in the Bahamas. Are you there, Doug? Doug, if you can hear me, can you maybe unmute your audio? Okay, as we work to try and get Doug's attention, again, Doug is live. He's a Miami Heat reporter. He's been following, like many journalists around the world, especially in the United States, have been following the FTX matter with Sam Bankman-Fried. If you're just tuning in, of course, we are live. We just had at the top of our show our digital manager, Ava Turnquest, talk about what took place in the courtroom today. Chief Magistrate Joyanne Ferguson-Pratt, of course, the magistrate over those proceedings. Bankman-Fried is now spending his first evening. Can you believe it? His first evening, I imagine he didn't see this happening maybe, 2 years ago when he came to the Bahamas. His first evening at the Bahamas Department of Corrections, and I would love to have an inside look to see exactly how that's going. But Bankman-Fried is spending his first evening at the Bahamas Department of Corrections after it was ruled that he will serve roughly 2 months there until February 3rd, 2023. We now have Doug Hanks back with us on Zoom. Hi, Doug. Good evening to you. Doug is a reporter, a news reporter with the Miami Herald. Good evening to you, and thank you very much for joining us, Doug. I imagine you all have been paying very, very close attention to today's courts proceedings here in the Bahamas.
Yes, and the scandal in general, because FTX is one of the biggest corporate brands in Miami, thanks to its once very large checkbook. When it purchased one of the country's best arena deals to put its name where the Miami Heat plays, a deal the Miami Heat very much regrets today, as does Miami-Dade County, which owns the arena that the government pays for.
Yeah, I imagine this is the story in several cities across the United States, Doug. Let's just talk about Bankman-Fried, SBF, had pledged an initial amount for naming rights of the Heat Stadium. How much did he pledge, and was it to be paid, and when was it to be paid, rather?
It was a $135 million deal over 20 years. There was some uneasiness from the government standpoint because it was such a new, exotic company. No one really understood what it did. And so they did front load it a little bit. So FTX, before it collapsed, paid $20 million to the government.
Oh, so the city had already received $20 million from him.
Correct. And the collapse was just a shy rough for them because it was scheduled, the company was scheduled to pay another $5.5 million on January 1st. And of course, the county will not see that money.
I of course not. How important are pledges to the city of Miami and the Heat organization from organizations like FTX for them to move forward and continue growing edifices in the city, and in particular, in this instance, the game of basketball in the NBA?
Right. Well, the Heat has lots of money. The Heat will be fine. And Miami-Dade County, which owns the arena, has lots of money too. So it's not so much a financial problem for either entity. It's certainly a hurdle and a setback, and it will cause some spending cuts probably, or maybe not cuts, but some budget rearranging for the county, because they are going to be out money that they were already spending essentially. But it was a huge blow to Miami in general, which had really used the FTX naming deal to justify its attempt to kind of be the crypto capital of the United States, and really thought that crypto was going to be part of its brand as a edgy, forward-thinking, aggressive city when it comes to recruiting the financial titans of the country. And it's had some success in that, aside from SBF.
And so much like many other destinations and jurisdictions, Miami, the city of Miami was looking to really sort of jump in on this relatively new thing. But obviously the promise was there. It appeared to be going in the right direction for quite some time, and obviously own it and establish itself as one of the cryptocurrency's mainstays.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the Miami mayor appeared with SBF and was wanting to take his salary in crypto, and was introducing kids or young people to the crypto concept. So yeah, Miami very much was, I guess to a certain extent still is, kind of wrapped up in that notion of crypto equals the future, and this is a sign of Miami being on the forefront of the next wave of finance.
I know you said that the city is not broke. Certainly the Heat organization is not broke. But as a reporter who is on top of the story, what are they saying about sort of, I guess, revising everything and then the way forward?
Yeah, I mean, the Heat, I don't think, was thrilled with this FTX deal in the beginning. The county, which the government owns the arena, and they negotiated the deal. So now the Heat is very much not thrilled with this. I mean, it's the county's building, but the Heat's arena has FTX on the roof. I mean, the Heat wants out of this, the county wants out of this. Everyone wants that name removed from that building, but they can't do it. They still have a deal with FTX, and that's all frozen in the bankruptcy court. So the government is suing or going to court against FTX to cancel the deal. The FTX is in default of that deal even before it misses its payment, for breaking the law and whatnot. So, or allegedly breaking the law. So the government is asking a judge, let us out of this. But they got to wait in line. A lot of people asking the judge for help in this FTX case. And then, of course, they'll shop for another sponsor to hopefully pay as much as FTX agreed to pay.
Yeah, I imagine. I know that you're focused strictly on the impact on the city of Miami and the Heat organization, but what are you hearing, Doug, in terms of the other sporting organizations that FTX was really hoping to become, I guess, sort of like, the front and the face of a number of NBA teams and organizations and Major League as well?
Well, I know FTX was certainly trying to buy its way into a household name or a familiar brand. I mean, it went from not existing 3 years ago to having ads in the Super Bowl. So, and certainly Miami was part of that effort. They bought their way into Miami. They bought their way into the Miami skyline, into one of the most prominent advertising spots on the east coast of Florida. And everyone was happy to have the money, and everyone was happy to be connected to the buzz as well. But with that comes a disastrous fall that makes everyone look not quite as smart as they did a year ago.
Yeah, I know, Doug, because we are kind of having the same story here, an experience. I'm very happy to greet them, to step into this new space and be a leader in this new space, meaning the cryptocurrency space, only, of course, to have this happen. I thank you very much, Doug Hanks, a reporter with the Miami Herald, leading newspaper there in South Florida, joining us this evening live from South Florida in Miami to talk about the impact, not just on individuals. By the way, we had a lady come from Miami speak with our news team today as we provided hours and hours of live coverage here on Eyewitness News from Miami, talked about how many people she knows are out of homes, out of their investments, and so a number of people have been impacted according to the way she tells it. Of course, we know certainly from the corporate standpoint, as you were talking about, certainly many organizations also have been impacted, and as you mentioned, perhaps even thinking of suits of their own. I thank you very much, Doug. Hope perhaps we will speak again as we continue to follow this case and development with Sam Bankman-Fried and FTX. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us. Doug Hanks, a reporter with the Miami Herald, joining us live here and Beyond the Headlines this evening. Don't go anywhere, because when we come back, we're going to share some of your thoughts as well as the Hot Topics panel. They are coming up right after the break. This is Beyond the Headlines, brought to you by Alive. Stay close. We are brought to you by Alive. Very, very happy to say that, our title sponsor. We're going to jump right in, and I'd like to welcome the Beyond the Headlines contributors to the show, Howard Grant and Garth Rosborough. Gentlemen, good evening to both of you.
Good evening. Good evening. Good evening.
Have you been watching this play out since I think it was Sunday night, Monday night or something? The arrest first, and or perhaps at the same time, the arrest and then the U.S.'s stated intention to have SBF extradited to the United States.
Absolutely. I've been watching with great interest from the entire debacle actually started, to know exactly what this meant, to hear local persons have a conversation about our integrity internationally and what this would mean for the Bahamas, and trying to be able to scrutinize it through the lens of politics locally. So I've been watching with great intent, and to see how it played out today. Kind of blew my mind. I mean, we can talk about it, but it blew my mind. I mean, let's get through the pleasantries, and then I gotta let you know. It's blew my mind, because I read in the papers how Maxine Waters took on a position and said that Sam Bankman-Fried was supposed to be able to show up before the congressional hearing today, and today the fella get locked up. I mean, the fella told me if it smelled like a rat, looked like a rat got to be involved somewhere. We have to have these kind of conversations to talk about these things. And I think, listening to Ava a little earlier, have this kind of a conversation about the fact that he's not a flight risk. He could have, kind of jumped up. He has access to finances. He can go anywhere. And, our magistrate took on the position to be able to retain him in this position to say that he's a flight risk. I thought it was a good move, because the truth of the matter is that, in my personal opinion, in my belief, after you pass the yellow line going into the U.S. territory right here in the Bahamas, I believe Sam knows that he's locked up.
And so you got
to play it smart.
He played a nice check.
You got to play it smart. You got to be able to do these things.
Garth, your thoughts?
Well, I feel honored that at least the world is looking to the Bahamas for investment purposes. To see a person of this particular notoriety come here and want to establish itself. This person is not new to establishment. He, like we've just previously heard, has done business with Florida.
Yeah, you heard.
He's done businesses with government officials. He is international. And we praised him as long as everything was going well. Now, most of us do not even begin to understand what cryptocurrency is or what the industry is all about. What we now know, though, is in our minds we've already cast our own accusation that he's guilty. We've judged him already. He's guilty. He's going to Fox Hill prison. And we want to now understand what is, number one, cryptocurrency, and what caused this gentleman to get locked up, and who else is going to be locked up.
Well, I get to that. But you know what? Let's jump right in. God, since you led there, I'll ask you this question. Why do you suppose so many Bahamians, one, are watching this case or watching these developments, and then are of the view that if and when Sam sings, he will have many notes?
They're watching because, in my own belief, and I could be wrong, I'm not afraid to be wrong, there are not that many Bahamians that are involved in cryptocurrency as far as I'm concerned. Not to that particular level of being the majority of the population. However, we do understand that there are some very important people who are part of this situation. And we know that these very important people, some of them have received gifts and favors, and there's been some networking going on. We've had one or two of the more renowned men of God who have received some of these funds. And so,
Garth, you're getting heavy today. You're getting heavy today.
That's a feeding program, Garth. How you could talk with the men of God trying to feed
it has gone that far, even to the doorstep of our very holy Bible. And so, for it to have gotten from politics and the Bible to your very television set at home, this is huge. And so, like I said, for those of us who are dumbfounded and confounded by what is cryptocurrency and who is Sam has never been important to any one of us until now. The whole idea of cryptocurrency, I've seen it on media all over the place. Oh, buy crypto, buy crypto. What? No, give me a US dollar bill. I'm one of those type people. And many Bahamians are, give me a US dollar bill or a Bahamian dollar bill. You don't even interested in the sand dollar. How many people even believe in a sand dollar?
So you're saying you are not buying into that money.
Well, we believe in Santa Claus, but we don't believe in these things. But now that this has now come to our table, we're all very interested, especially at the fact, Howard, that we're now talking about the correctional center here in Nassau, Bahamas.
I want to touch a couple.
We have a new headquarters for FDS.
Let's do this. Let's shoot
shoot straight.
You have a new headquarters.
Let's shoot straight. We can shoot straight.
There's now a new FTX headquarters.
There is.
Garth, you touch a great deal of things. I just have to get to touch it. We have less than 400,000 people in our archipelago.
Yes.
We are desperately eager to find a new avenue. We've been having conversation about tourism. We've been having conversation about the fact that fishing ain't doing it, banking ain't doing it. We've been having a great deal of conversations to find out the next wave, the next direction for the country. Cryptocurrency seems to be strategically positioned, not just locally, but globally, to be the next thing that's happened. I have to commend this administration. Listen, Mr. Bankman-Fried, less than 1,200 days ago, based upon Doug, what was his last, the gentleman?
Doug Hanks.
Doug Hanks, based upon less than 1,200 days ago, just got into business. So when we start to talk about establishment, 1,200 days ain't strong enough for business. Let's talk about it. Certain businesses, we know the statistics associated with short and long term in business, and we also know his youth and his experience placed him in this kind of position. All we see is his eagerness at the forefront. Now, he understood one thing. I said this before, and I will not back away from it. He was operating in a principle that he really doesn't understand. He knows that if he gives, something happens when he gives. It continues to come back to him. We, people of faith, understand that this is a principle that we have. And whilst he did that, he has never done this, even the accusation, to give you this kind of a whiff or idea that he's given gifts to our politicians and whatnot. He was very clear in his most recent interview, indicating that no one has ever asked him for anything. That's what he said about the Bahamian people.
But if I may interrupt here, Shanique and Howard, there have been other industries in this country, not legal, by the way, very much so illegal, who have also brought wealth to this country and also came bearing gifts. I don't ask them for the gifts, but the gifts were here. Does it make it right? Does it make it immoral? This is what the Bahamian people want to know. What is cryptocurrency? Is this another form of piracy? Is it another form of buccaneering? Is it another part of bootlegging? Is this drug running? All of these things, is it a part of that?
Garth, you are the great city of Miami trying to embrace and get in on
Miami don't have no clean reputation either. We
That's
know
it.
that.
That's everybody.
Miami don't even have a clean reputation
let's shoot
either.
straight.
Let's shoot straight.
Let's shoot straight.
Miami is not clean either.
Miami
is,
built off of some things.
It's mafia city number one. Okay, so let's get to that. We're trying to be mini Miami in every which way that we could. And if you throw us a bone, of course, the dog has to eat the bone.
No. But I want to be honest also. The fact of the matter is that we're dealing with impoverishment in this country, and many of us don't want to have a conversation about it. I feel like the former administration did a disservice to the Bahamian people to brand and etch this kind of an idea to talk about the two calamities that we went through in this country as the Twin Towers. Remember, they talked about it. They talked about the Dorian and coming out of Dorian and going into COVID-19 and that kind of a lockdown. They dubbed it and kind of coined it the Twin Towers, right? Let's talk about that.
I don't think it's an administration fault.
I've never heard of that.
I don't think it's an administration fault.
I've never heard it described as that by
I
them or
can
anybody.
put it up for you.
Ahead.
I can put it up for you because we did many shows and talked about it, which I thought was kind of a unique. The former Prime Minister spoke to it out of the House of Assembly. But let's touch this. When you're dealing with impoverished people who are eager to find their way out, if it wasn't an external entity like Mr. Sam or FTX or anyone else, it would have been internal, where persons are looking at the government. Poor people always look for an avenue
No, but
out.
Howard.
That's just what it is.
No, Howard. It was an amazing and perhaps still is an amazing opportunity, but SPF himself admitted he lacked a number of structures and positions that should have been in place so that accountability was there. He did not have it there. He lacked it. And he lacked it. And so perhaps there could have been greater or deeper insight to ensure and police what he was doing. It is a new industry, and so all of us were still learning. All of us were still learning. The SBC,
How could you care?
all of them learning.
How could anyone care if you are distributing funds? The city of Miami, despite their position, you see they talked about taking on $135 million to be able to name the stadium after FTX.
Who says no to
took
that
on
type of money?
$20 million, which represents about 14% of the $135 million. Took the money and looking for another $5 million in January, which they didn't get. And their only disappointment is that, I tell you, we wasn't going to get the whole money. We wasn't sure about this thing. We had to give it some time. Let's just shoot straight. We are in the exact same position. I told you, this is generation one of the cryptocurrency globally. And we're going to see this strengthen itself moving forward. We are going to eventually move away from the tangible dollar bill. It's going to be in
God
our wallets. It's going to be in our phone. No matter what God say or any of us say.
I want to ask you all, because I asked Doug Hanks from the Miami Herald a moment ago, and I want to ask you all. The lady, Eyewitness News interviewed a lady who said, listen, when she heard of his arrest last night or yesterday, she immediately caught a flight here.
And left her shirt. Anyway, go ahead.
Your thoughts about what she had to say and what she shared? What she shared. What do you mean left her shirt out?
Listen, it was too much, ma'am.
Did you not listen to what this woman was saying
I
versus
tried.
looking at her?
I tried. I did my best. I tried, right? But the fact is this. There is no need to look at the Bahamas as an incompetent jurisdiction, that we're incapable of being able to. I don't care about how they tried to sully us in years past. We are capable. And the reason why the world continues to be able to look at the Bahamas to see the next step, because we've been sullied with this idea of corruption. I believe that this administration is capable. I believe that the talent that exists in this country is capable of being able to navigate this and find justice for the Bahamian people and to find the right avenue to do. Now, I thought it was a little bit different for me to see our Attorney General take on a position to say that we are eagerly moving towards, or we are moving towards being able to ensure that we can extradite him because of the request that came down from the United States of America. I believe that we needed to be able to kind of do what we had to do first and then take care of it.
How would you confuse me? You use a very powerful word, which was capable. The Bahamian people are very capable.
Yes.
Is that synonymous with the word able? Because being capable is one thing, and being able, for me, is another. How long have we been capable? How long have we been potentially able to do and not doing what we're supposed to do? We are in a situation that we're now in because of our own selves. Anyone that offers us a bowl of porridge, we're just like Esau in the Bible, coming from hunting, coming home, no having nothing to eat, and we got to eat the bowl of porridge. This is where the country has always been put in. Why aren't we serious about agriculture? Why are we not serious about fishing? Why are we not interested in mariculture and aquaponics and everything else that makes sense? Why do we keep on relying on government and keep on relying on external nations and peoples to take care of us?
Historically, if you want to get biblical, historically we've always looked to the proverbial king to be able to make the decisions for who we are as a people. We, as a Bahamian people. We, as the people that view ourselves as Israelites. We, as our people who've been looking for that king to lead us out. We, who've dubbed the former Prime Minister Lyndon Pinland as Black Moses. We are a people who have been impoverished and looking for a way out.
But it's them who now invested in FTX?
No, you can't be them. We,
yes,
them,
it's them.
Us.
No, us over here ain't doing that. And us over here ain't looking for no king.
God, before the whole collapse, FTX was
I don't know about no FTX. I know about fishing. I know about farming. I know about plumbing. I know about renovation.
So then, God,
I know about waking up every.
Those are your industries. But gentlemen, I want to move on right now and ask you all this. A light moment. Let's lighten it up. Let's lighten it up before we all start fighting in here. Will the authorities at BDOCS, you think, engage an executive chef to prepare SBF's vegan meals, you think? I just want to know, because the gentleman has specific needs.
He better scrape the chicken off the plate and eat the rice. Make sure they fry it down. Just listen, there's not going to be any curry favoring. I know that we want to show ourselves diplomatic. I know that the human rights
this guy is going to be given special attention. Come on.
I don't know the answer. Did Randy Fraser get special attention in Fox Hill, sir? I don't know. I'm asking. Because I heard that he did.
I don't know. There's no information that came to the forefront.
But it came to me that
But I only know
what you heard, God?
But he was being well taken care of. That was a man of God. He still was a man of God. He may have fallen, but God had his back. And I heard they looked at the bishop with respect.
So if an entire man of God was given special attention and treated with regard and respect.
And a man who's a multi-billionaire or former multi-billionaire?
No, according to...
When I get out of jail, I can look out for you, Shanique. I can make sure you're straight. I mean,
the only way that this could happen is Sam Bankman-Fried commits to building a new prison for the Bahamas.
Perhaps might. Who knows?
Right?
Who knows the meetings that happen?
And then put his own executive suits.
Give the man a vegan meal, man. The man must be healthy.
I feel as
though...
Give all the prisoners vegan meals. I ask that in jest, but I really feel that specific needs will be catered to.
I think so.
His specific needs are not, doesn't supersede the needs of the prisoners that exist in that particular space right now.
We can share.
Man he ain't eating corned beef and rice.
Let's just put it there, okay?
He ain't eating corned beef and
We're
rice.
not going to, especially his particular status, though he's done good for the Bahamian people and even the poor people. I know that Bishop Lawrence Roll and others who are the recipients of that. Shout out to the Rand Theater in Grand Bahama, who is now opening up. They get all the new seats and everything like that.
Because of
SPF?
SPF?
Praise God for that. But let's just shoot straight. This man is not going to be able to supersede the Bahamians that have been in this kind of the doldrums and this kind of this position in Fox Hill Prison and other places. It ain't gonna happen.
You dreaming?
They have phones in prison.
As we speak, they have
will let us know.
created an executive suite.
Let us know. Put it on Snapchat.
But one thing is certain, he's not going to be wearing the brown pants. We sure about that.
Put it on Snapchat. Let us know. It's the truth. See, Shanique, we cannot always assume that white is right.
No,
right?
I don't think it's to do with white. Howard, I
when
think
you got money, you're better than us.
But monkey, where you live?
No, man.
You live on Earth?
No.
Okay.
The Bahamian people, and especially under the new Minister of National Security,
Howard,
came in with
let
a
me
mandate.
move along, because I don't know what
Let me touch it. You don't want to touch it.
Stop talking foolishness.
The minister came on with a mandate to be able to bring a sense of humanity back to this particular section. And I believe he's taken his time to get to that particular objective. I don't see there anything, in my view, y'all let me know, y'all got my number, call me. If he gets any kind of, special treatment or anything like that.
They would do good. Here, this is a unique prisoner. Number one, the United States is interested in him. The United States wants him. We're done. The United States wants him. The United States is interested. He is a high-profile inmate.
Yes.
He is worth $1 billion. He's done exceptional work in the Bahamas with
$1
people money. He is $1 billion. According to what was Googled and what's there. The point about it is though is the fact that all eyes are on him. You think they're gonna let Jaquan them
150 years if you touch down in the States, he knows that.
You think they can let Shaquan
You will never see light again.
You think they can give Shaquan them access to SPF? And he ain't got his vegan meals? You stirred there. You obviously live someplace. Where you live, God?
Bishop Lawrence Roll will set him up with some vegan meals.
Oh, stop it. Oh, gosh.
Praise God, Bishop.
Bishop is good for that.
Bishop can take care of it.
Y'all can imagine Bishop Roll cooking for him and
dancing.
Out in the back.
And dancing.
Entertainment and food,
You
yes.
get the Cat Island bread.
That part right there. Jesus, by the time
Flour
we finish
cake.
that round the world cake.
We love you, Bishop. We love you, Bahamas.
Praise God.
By the time we finish with that round the world cake, listen, you got a minute of inspiration with Mount Tabor Church is straight ahead.
Binding is holding evil and hell off of you. Binding is holding whatever is coming up against you off. That don't mean it's gonna stop coming. That means when you bind it, it can't reach. Boy, I'm trying to help the body. Loosen is suggesting that the enemy is already controlling something. You open up a door, you let him come in, and he starts to do some things. So now he has you bound in some areas. Loosen means something has already started holding you hostage that you need to be free of. As a walking, talking, serving, worshiping Christian believer, walking in authority, you are not supposed to be held hostage to any man or any man's opinions or any doctrine. When you live in the supernatural, your life got to be bigger than your church's doctrine. There is binding and loosing power in your mouth. But just like this can't be for the non-believers, this just can't be for the average churchman or the average Christian. You can't just be living in the supernatural. You have to be walking in it and walking in the authority that Christ has left for the church.
And that does it for our show this evening. Thank you so much for joining us. We certainly enjoyed having you along and look forward to seeing you right back here tomorrow evening. For the entire Beyond the Headlines team, including our panelists, I'm Shanique Miller. Thank you so much for joining us. Make it a great evening.